Hello, everyone. I'm Shayla Farrow here for Spotlight News. I'm with director, writer, producer. We all know and love his films like The Best Man, Girls Trip, Soul Men, Roll Bounce, so many of them. Malcolm Lee, how you doing today?
I'm good.
So, can you just tell me? I know that you started out your school career. You did Georgetown for undergrad. You did the fellowship with Disney, and then NYU for film school. So, throughout all of that, what was your decision process like to decide to fully pursue film?
Well, I always had a interest in fine and performing arts from a very early age, and was fortunate to be exposed to video making and filmmaking very early. My cousin Spike lived at our house when he was in film school, so I got to see the emergence of a great world filmmaker in his very nascent stages. So, it was that was there was the foundation. I got to work with him, and by the time I was 19, I figured it was culminated everything that I like to do. Drawing, storytelling, working with acting. I used to act. So when I was 19, I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I was already at Georgetown, which I already loved, and was having a good time there. So I was an English major, and then I got to write my first screenplay, which gave me entry into the Disney Fellowship program, which was a good learning experience. Also, I didn't know how to write then, but as I was saying before, you have to just try to do it. You just have to write. You can read all kinds of books and theories and posit all kinds of philosophies, but you have to do it. If you want to be a writer, you have to write. Learn your craft, hone your craft. And so, going to film school was also just the opportunity for me to try some things and tell a story that I wanted to tell.
Okay, and so you started in the industry extremely young. You were about what, 17, I believe?
I got to be, I got to work very early on with Spike. And so at 17, I got to be a production assistant, and then ultimately work my way up to be his assistant. And then, on short films, I'd be a assistant director or producer or what have you. And so, yeah, I got to work in the industry at a very early age.
And so mentoring is something that's very important to the Howard culture. And would you say that you've had any great mentors throughout your career, or do you have any advice for Howard students that are seeking mentors?
It's funny. Like, it depends on how you want to use mentors. I mean, I think you should be able to call on people for any number of things. Yeah, Spike was certainly somebody that was a mentor to me, and a lot of it was just kind of by default. I think people who are looking for mentors, it's good, but you can't rely on that, right? You have to blaze your own trail. You have to have your own voice in this industry, and they can tell you and give you all the advice that you want, but you're going to have to blaze your own trail and do your own thing, and that means trial by error. You try things, you get your friends to weigh in and say, okay, does this work? Am I communicating what I want to communicate? Is the story funny? Is it moving? Are the actors good? But you only achieve that through doing. And yes, you can certainly call on people. I still call on people to this day. And some are mentors, some are colleagues, some are peers. And because film is a collaborative effort, so you have to, because you're not just telling the story. Even though you have to have the vision for it, you're not telling that story by yourself because it's too much work to do. So you have to get other people that can help you, that can also critique and give you sound advice on how to proceed. I mean, that can be a peer, a classmate, an adult, and if you're lucky, you get to talk to somebody who can give you advice on like a rough cut of yours.
And so you've directed so many films, written and produced as well. What do you have a film that you've made that you're most proud of?
See, everybody asks that question, and it's tricky just because I'm proud of mostly all the movies that I've made. Some were, missteps, or some were just like mortgage money. Yeah, well, you got to have that. So, yeah, I mean, I think that every movie that I've made, or at least I've felt like that they've had playability. Whether or not they perform at the box office is not really something I can control. There's so many factors that go into why a movie does or does not perform. So I think for me, like I'm proud that Girls Trip connected on such a kind of need-based level, and it was a big worldwide hit. And the same with the two Best Man movies. I think those two movies, as well as Girls Trip, kind of demonstrated to the industry once again that films that feature African American actors and African American stories that are universal, by the way, can perform well at the box office, and that's kind of the benchmark that people are looking for. It's either that or awards, and if it's somewhere in between, they're kind of like, whatever.
Okay. And you mentioned Girls Trip, which was a really big success at the box office. What was the process like directing that? I mean, essentially you were making a production within a production. So what was that like?
A logistically very, very tough film to make, because we were shooting at a live event over 3 or 4 days at Essence Music Festival, which is extremely well attended. Like 60 to 80,000 people on a nightly basis at the Superdome. And then, there's hundreds of thousands that are in the city of New Orleans. And that festival generates more money than the Super Bowl. So, yeah, it was tough. And we had, again, logistically it was tough because, again, I wanted to give the audience an immersive experience. I wanted them to feel like they were there and capture the culture that is the Essence Festival, as well as New Orleans. So, a lot of handheld cameras that, dictated our style of shooting. And then when we got to, more dialogue scenes, it was a little bit more traditional filmmaking. But we wanted to give the audience a visual feast, and give them, again, the feeling that they were there in the festival, and really get close to the Flossie Posse.
And so, last but not least, you've done so much work throughout your career, and there's so many people out here that aspire to be directors and filmmakers. What would you tell them? What advice do you have to give them?
First of all, I would say really hone your craft. That means, again, as I said, doing it, you have a lot more opportunities just with your smartphone to make movies, to create content. Study movies, study the great movies. Find out why movies that are successful have done well. Study screenplay structure. And once you've mastered that, and again, mastering is kind of a sliding scale, you know what I mean? Like, I'm still trying to master the craft of filmmaking. But I know how to craft the story, I know what elements are needed, and you have to tell a story that is uniquely you, as a director in particular, and as a writer. You have to be able to tell a story that no one else can tell. And if you're able to do that successfully, you should be okay, but you are going to hear no. You'll hear no way more than you're going to hear yes, but all you need is one yes. That for somebody to say, to believe in you and to believe in your talent. And even if they don't, somebody will eventually. You keep writing the next one. You keep shooting the next thing. Don't give up. And the idea that you had first may not have been the right idea at the right time, but maybe it is later, So that's what I would say. And I would also say, go see Night School on September 28th.
Well, I was going to say that too.
Good.
Thank
Movie
you.
number 10.
Movie number 10. Thank you so much, Mr. Malcolm, for taking time out to speak with us, and we definitely appreciate it. It was great to hear from you.